I'm scared.
It's okay. I'm here.
We need to go now.
All right, let's go.
One day, the glass doors of Bennett Tech Studios reflected everything Clara had built, and she had learned long ago not to flinch at her own reflection. 26 years old, self-made CEO, Forbes 30 under 30, a company worth 8 figures before most people finished grad school, and absolutely nobody waiting for her at home. She had made peace with that last part, or so she told herself every morning while buttoning her blazer in an empty apartment. She was reaching for the door handle when she saw her. A little girl pressed against the glass, tiny hands splayed flat, tears streaming down caramel cheeks. Security was already moving toward the child, but something in those desperate eyes stopped Clara cold. The girl's lips moved against the glass, and Clara read them perfectly. "Please, I need a mama, just one day." Clara's hand froze on the handle. Her heart, the one she had spent years convincing herself did not need softness, cracked wide open along a fault line she had forgotten existed. She pushed the door open. The little girl looked up. "What did you say, sweetie?" The child's voice trembled but did not break. "Can you be my mama just for today? I'll be really good, I promise." Behind Clara, her assistant India gasped. Across the street, a black Mercedes SUV's door flew open, and then she heard the voice that would unravel everything she thought she knew about herself. "Lily Han, step away from that woman now." The man who emerged from the Mercedes moved like controlled violence wrapped in a three-piece suit. Tall, Korean, eyes that tracked threats before most people finished blinking. However, Lily did not move. She held Clara's hand tighter instead, her small fingers locking around Clara's with surprising force. "Lily Han," the man's voice sharpened, "step away." "No," Lily's chin lifted. She pointed at the door Clara had opened. "That means she cares." Clara should have let go. She should have stepped back into her safe, lonely building and called it someone else's problem. Instead, she knelt down to eye level. "What's your name, baby?" "Lily." Those desperate eyes locked onto Clara's face. "Can you be my mama just for today?" Behind them, the man, clearly security, moved closer with practiced efficiency. "Ms. Bennett, I apologize for the disturbance. I'm Tobias Crane, head of security for the Han family." The child escaped her detail. "Sixth time this month," Lily announced without a trace of shame. Clara's assistant India appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. "Boss, should I call?" "It's fine." Clara kept her focus on Lily entirely. "Why me, sweetheart? There are a lot of people on this street." Lily reached into her small jacket and pulled out a crumpled magazine. Atlanta Business Weekly. Clara's face on the cover. The headline stabbed. "The CEO who built everything but has nobody to come home to." "You're lonely," Lily whispered. "Like me. My mama died having me. Papa says it's not my fault, but sometimes he can't look at me." Clara's chest split open. Her own mother had walked out when she was 4. No note, no explanation, just absence so complete it became its own kind of presence. She knew this emptiness Lily was describing. She had furnished entire rooms of her life around it. "Lily," Tobias's voice carried a warning. "Your father is waiting." "Papa's always waiting," Lily said quietly. "He's never actually there." Clara stood slowly, still holding Lily's hand, and looked at Tobias with the same directness she used in boardrooms. "Who is her father?" "Elias Han." The name landed like ice water. Federal watch lists, society pages, dangerous money folded carefully inside legitimate business, like a blade inside a handshake. Clara knew the name the way everyone in Atlanta's power circles knew it, which was to say she knew enough to be afraid and knew enough to understand that fear was the entire point. "I'm taking her for the afternoon," Clara said. "He can collect her at 6, my office, 20th floor." "Ms. Bennett, you don't understand what you're—" "I understand. A little girl asked me for one kind thing." Clara's voice stayed level. 6 o'clock. She walked back inside. Lily's small hand tucked safely in hers, and did not look back at Tobias because she already knew what his face looked like. She had seen that expression before, on every person who had ever underestimated how far she would go once she had decided something mattered. Clara's office had never felt warmer. Lily sat in the leather chair behind Clara's desk, spinning slowly, eyes wide with wonder at the wall of monitors and the skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. "You have 17 monitors," she breathed. "What do you do with 17 monitors?" "Run a company." Clara pulled out her phone. "What's your father's number, sweetheart?" Lily rattled it off from memory without hesitation, and Clara dialed before she could think too carefully about what she was doing. It rang once. "Who is this?" The voice was cold, controlled, and absolutely lethal in the way that only truly dangerous people manage to sound completely bored. "Mr. Han, my name is Clara Bennett. Your daughter is with me." Silence. Then put Tobias on the phone. "Tobias works for you, not for me. I'm calling as a courtesy. Lily asked me to spend the day with her. I said yes." "You said." His voice dropped to something that lived below ordinary anger, something quieter and therefore far more dangerous. "Miss Bennett, you have no idea what you're involving yourself in." "I'm involving myself in giving a lonely little girl one good day. You can collect her at 6, Bennett Tech Studios, 20th floor. "I know where your office is." Of course he did. Clara's stomach flipped, but her voice stayed steady. "Then we have an understanding." "We have nothing." But beneath the ice she heard it. Buried under the control and the threat beneath the practiced menace, she heard desperation. She heard fear. "If anything happens to her." "Nothing will happen to her," Clara said simply. "She'll be safe, fed, happy." A pause. "When's the last time she smiled, Mr. Han?" The question detonated in the silence between them and did not echo. It simply sat there, immovable. "I'll be there at 6. He hung up. India appeared in the doorway holding 2 bags from the cafe downstairs, eyes wide but expression already shifting toward pragmatic loyalty. "I got cookies and juice boxes. And boss, are you insane?" "Probably." Clara took the bags. "Clear my afternoon." "Already done." India studied Lily, who was now examining Clara's awards shelf with quiet, reverent fascination, reading each plaque carefully with moving lips. "She's adorable. She's lonely." "So are you," India said gently. "Maybe that's why she picked you." Clara's throat tightened. Maybe it was. And maybe, for the first time in a very long time, that was not a problem she needed to solve. Lily had never been to a trampoline park. Clara discovered this when Lily asked, voice small and carefully hopeful, whether they could go somewhere fun, because Papa never had time for fun places. So Clara did something she had not done in 8 years. She left work early, told India to hold everything, and drove a 6-year-old to a warehouse full of trampolines in her executive sedan, while Lily picked every song on the stereo with total authority. The trampoline park was glorious chaos. Kids screaming, parents exhausted, foam pits swallowing children whole. Lily's eyes went wide as saucers at the entrance. "We can jump on purpose?" she asked. "That's literally the whole point." Clara kicked off her heels. She felt reckless in a way that was clean and unambiguous. "Come on." They jumped. Lily laughed so hard she got hiccups, and Clara forgot what year it was, what acquisitions were pending, what board meetings she was missing. For 2 hours she was just present, not strategic, not positioned, not optimizing anything. Just there. "Here!" Lily shrieked, bouncing into the foam pit. Clara jumped in after her, and they surfaced covered in foam blocks, giggling like idiots in a way Clara had not giggled since she was a child who still believed her mother might come back. "You're really good at being a mama," Lily said quietly, catching her breath. Clara's heart clenched. "Sweetheart, I'm not." "I know, just for today." Lily's smile dimmed slightly, accepting the limitation with the quiet resignation of a child who had learned to take what was offered without demanding more. but you're the best today mama ever. They got ice cream after because the day demanded it. Lily ordered chocolate with sprinkles and ate it with such concentrated, unguarded joy that Clara's chest physically ached watching her. This was what 6 was supposed to look like, and somewhere along the line, someone had stolen it from this particular child and replaced it with bodyguards and careful silence. "Why doesn't your papa make time?" Clara asked gently. Lily shrugged, licking her cone. "He's busy, important meetings, lots of people need him." "Do you need him?" "Yeah," her voice went small and careful. "But I think looking at me makes him sad, because I look like Mama. Miss Yun says I have her eyes." Clara reached across the table and squeezed Lily's sticky hand. "That's not your fault, baby." "I know," Lily said, "but knowing doesn't make it hurt less." 6 years old and already fluent in the language of wounds that could not be argued away. Clara felt the recognition move through her like a current, because she had been speaking that language for 22 years. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Where is she?" Clara typed back, "Safe, happy, you'll see at 6. The response came in 4 seconds. "I'm seeing her now. Send your location." Clara's stomach dropped. She looked up. Elias Han stood in the doorway of the ice cream shop, and he looked like a man who was approximately 30 seconds from burning everything to the ground. He was nothing like she had expected. Younger, late 20s or barely 30, sharply dressed but visibly undone in the small ways that exhaustion produces over years rather than days. Dark circles under his eyes. Hair slightly disheveled in the way of someone who had been running their hands through it repeatedly for hours. And terrified. Not the cold, calculated danger she had heard on the phone, but something rawer and more honest beneath it. He was absolutely, utterly terrified. "Papa," Lily jumped from her seat, ice cream forgotten. He was across the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees, hands moving over her with frantic, systematic care. "Are you hurt? Did anyone touch you? Lily, answer me." "I'm fine, Papa. We jumped on trampolines and I got chocolate ice cream and Clara let me pick the music in her car." His head snapped up, eyes locked on Clara with lethal precision. "You took her in your car." "She wore a seat belt." Clara stood slowly, keeping her voice even. "You don't know her allergies, her medical history. What if?" "Then I would have handled it." "You have no right." His voice dropped. "She asked me for 1 day. Clara held his gaze. "I gave her 3 hours. When's the last time you took her for ice cream, Mr. Han?" The question landed. She saw it hit him, saw the way his jaw tightened and his eyes shifted for just a fraction of a second. And in that fraction, she saw everything she needed to know about Elias Han. "I provide everything she needs," he said tightly. "Except yourself." The ice cream shop had gone quiet. Other parents were watching with the particular attention people give to scenes they know they should not be witnessing. Elias noticed, and his expression shuddered with practiced efficiency. "Lily Carr now." Lily's face crumpled. She looked at Clara with devastated eyes. "Thank you for being my today mama." Clara's heart shattered quietly. "Any time, baby." Elias took Lily's hand and turned to leave, and Clara let him reach the door before she spoke. "You're terrified of her." He stopped. "Not for her, of her." Clara kept her voice gentle because this required gentleness. "Because she's all you have left of someone you loved, and you don't know how to hold that without breaking." Elias turned slowly. His eyes were wrecked in the way that men who have controlled everything for too long look when something finally breaches the wall. 6 o'clock, Clara said quietly. "My office, we need to talk." He left without answering. However, 3 hours later her receptionist called. "Miss Bennett, Elias Han is here." He sat across from her looking like a man who had not slept properly in 3 years, because he probably had not. "You had no right," he said quietly, and it came out more like a confession than an accusation. "I know. She could have been hurt, taken, used against me." His hands tightened. "You don't understand my world." Then explain it to me. The silence stretched long and heavy, and then something gave way behind his eyes. My wife died giving birth to Lily. His voice cracked on the last word. Hemorrhage. The doctors tried everything. She held Lily once, smiled, said she was perfect. He stopped to compose himself, and Clara waited because she understood that this kind of grief required room. Then she was gone. Every time I look at Lily, he continued, I see Una, her eyes, her smile, her. He stopped again. I built everything to protect Lily, security, money, power, everything so she would never be vulnerable the way her mother was. But you forgot to actually be her father. His eyes flashed. Clara did not look away. She doesn't need another bodyguard, Elias. She needs her dad. I don't know how. The admission tore out of him, raw and unguarded. I don't know how to be soft when my world requires me to be hard. I don't know how to hold her without remembering what I lost. Clara understood that. God, did she understand it in a way that lived in her bones rather than her memory? My mother left me when I was 4, she said quietly. Just walked out. My Uncle Ro raised me and loved me well enough that I survived it, but I spent 22 years believing I wasn't enough to make her stay. She let that settle. Lily thinks she's not enough to make you look at her. She thinks your grief is her fault. And one day, she will stop asking for your time. She'll stop trying, and you'll have all the security in the world protecting a daughter who doesn't know you anymore. The devastation on his face was complete and total. I don't know how to fix this, he whispered. Clara stood, walked around the desk, and sat beside him rather than across from him, because some conversations cannot happen over furniture. Start with ice cream, she said. The rest will follow. The Saturday trips became routine. 3 weeks of aquariums and parks and ice cream shops, and 3 weeks of Lily's laughter filling spaces that had been silent for too long. 3 weeks of Clara falling for a little girl who called her Miss Clara, but looked at her like she hung the moon, and 3 weeks of stolen glances with Elias that made her chest feel too tight to breathe normally. At the aquarium, Lily pressed her face against the Shark Tank glass with the total commitment of someone who had found her calling. Elias actually smiled, really smiled, when Lily insisted he touch the stingrays in the petting pool. At lunch, Lily sat between them chattering about octopuses and seahorses and how she had decided to become a marine biologist. Last week she wanted to be an astronaut, Elias murmured to Clara. She's 6, she's allowed to dream big. He looked at her, like you. Yeah, Clara said softly, like me. Lily grabbed both their hands. Can we do this every Saturday? Elias looked at Clara. Clara looked back. Maybe, they said together, and even though it was an accident, neither of them looked away. Then Monday arrived with a problem, because Mondays reliably did. Clara Bennett, you're slumming now. Margaret Sterling stood in Clara's office doorway in a designer suit with calculated cruelty deployed at full efficiency. Dadding a mobster, how desperate are you? India stepped between them. Miss Sterling, you don't have an appointment. I don't need one. Margaret's smile was poison wrapped in good dental work. I'm here as a courtesy. The investors are concerned about your associations. Bad press affects stock prices. I'm not dadding anyone. TMZ says differently. Margaret dropped a tablet on Clara's desk and the headline screamed, Tech CEO's secret family. Clara Bennett spotted with alleged crime boss Elias Han and daughter. Photos, the 3 of them at the aquarium, the park, Lily holding both their hands, beaming. The board meets Friday, Margaret said sweetly. I'd prepare a statement, unless you plan to keep playing house with criminals. She left. India locked the door. Boss, this is bad. I know. Her phone rang immediately. Elias, have you seen? Yes, his voice was tight. I'm sorry, I should have been more careful. My enemies will use this against you, against Lily. A pause that felt deliberate. Maybe you should distance yourself before this destroys everything you built. Elias. Saturday's canceled. I'll handle things from here. He hung up. Clara stared at her phone, heart cracking along the fault line that had opened the day. A little girl pressed her hands against glass and asked for one kind thing. India touched her shoulder gently. "What are you going to do?" Clara thought about Lily's smile at the aquarium, Elias' face when he touched the stingrays, the warm, impossible weight of being chosen by people who had every reason not to choose anyone. "I'm going to fight," she said quietly, and she picked up her phone and called her lawyer. Clara showed up at the Han estate Saturday morning anyway. The gates opened. She drove through, heart hammering, and told herself that if the gates were opening, then someone had decided to let her make her case. Elias met her at the door looking like a man who had rehearsed this conversation and did not want to have it. "Clara, you shouldn't be here. Lily's expecting me. I told her you were busy." "Well," Clara stepped past him into the marble foyer, "I'm not." "Clara." "Mama." Lily appeared at the top of the staircase, face lighting up and then dimming with a child's radar for things being wrong. "Papa said you couldn't come anymore because bad people took pictures." Clara climbed the stairs, knelt down. "Baby, listen to me. Some people don't understand that families come in all shapes, but that doesn't make us wrong." "Are we a family?" Lily's voice was so small it barely qualified as sound. Clara looked at Elias. He stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, conflict written across every line of his face, a man who had built every wall in his life out of genuine love, and was only now realizing that love and walls were not the same thing. "I want to be," Clara said. Lily threw her arms around Clara's neck with the total conviction of someone who had decided. Elias' jaw tightened. "This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. She's getting attached, you're getting attached, and when this falls apart." "Why does it have to fall apart?" "Because everything does." His control finally cracked. "My parents, Una, everyone I've ever—" He stopped, breathing hard through something that had clearly been waiting years for an exit. "Everyone leaves." "I'm still here." Clara stood, still holding Lily. "The photos came out. The board is meeting Friday. My investors are concerned." She held his gaze. "And I'm still here. Your company is just a company, Elias. Lily is a little girl who needs people who show up. And you're a man who has been alone for too long." Her voice stayed steady because one of them needed to be. "So I'm showing up. The question is whether you're brave enough to let me." The silence stretched. Then Lily whispered, "Please, Papa, don't make her leave too." Something broke in Elias Han's face that Clara suspected had been broken for 3 years and simply never acknowledged. "Okay," he whispered, "okay." The board meeting happened on Friday, and Clara walked in without a prepared statement. She stood before her investors in the same blazer she had worn the morning Lily pressed her hands against the glass and said what she actually thought, which was that she was building a life and not just a company, and if they could not support that, they were welcome to find another CEO. She said it without apology and without performance, because she had learned something in the past several weeks about the difference between strength and armor. They voted unanimously to keep her. Margaret Sterling resigned the following Monday, citing personal reasons, which everyone understood to mean something else entirely. 1 year later, Clara stood in the same spot where Lily had first pressed her hands against the glass doors of Bennett Tech Studios. Lily's handprints were permanent now, bronzed and mounted beside a small plaque that read, "Where one day became forever." The building had changed in ways that only Clara and India and the maintenance staff fully understood. Clara's new office had 3 desks. Hers, a smaller one positioned near the window for Lily's homework, covered in drawings and pencil cases and a half-finished model of the solar system. And one for Elias, who had gone legitimate in the way that men like Elias Han go legitimate, which was to say completely, and with the same thoroughness he brought to everything, merging his import operations with Clara's tech distribution network in a deal that had taken 4 months to structure, and that her board had approved with notably fewer questions than she had expected. Uncle Ro's woodworking now filled the walls of the house they shared. Miss Yun had cried at the ceremony, happy tears and guilty ones mixed together, the kind only people carrying long debts of grief can cry. India had stood beside Clara in a pale blue dress. Even Tobias had smiled briefly in the photograph. "Mama," Lily appeared in the doorway of the office, school bag half open, one shoe untied. "Papa says we're late for dinner. He made the thing. The dumplings. He burned the first batch. He says to tell you they're fine. They're not fine." Clara laughed and reached for her jacket. On her way out, she passed Lily's desk, and she paused for a moment at the window, looking down at the street below where it had started. One desperate little girl. One impossible question. One door opened because something cracked open inside a woman who had convinced herself she did not need softness. She had given Lily one day. And in the 12 months since, through the board meeting and the press and the restructuring and the merger and the ceremony and everything that had come after, Clara had quietly, methodically, irrevocably made Lily Han a Bennett on paper, in trust, in every financial instrument her lawyers could construct. She had done it the way she did everything that mattered, not with sentiment but with structure, not with hope but with architecture, not with love alone but with the kind of legal permanence that love by itself could never guarantee. Elias had signed the documents the same day Clara presented them, without hesitation, and she had watched his face when he understood what she was actually offering, which was not merely herself, but the one protection she could build that his money and his fear and his walls never could. The one thing that meant Lily could never be used as leverage against either of them ever again, because Lily belonged, on paper and in law, to both of them equally, and Clara had made certain that the structure of that belonging was airtight in a way that no dissolution, no board, no crisis, and no enemy could touch. "You didn't have to do this," Elias had said, looking at the documents. "No," Clara had agreed. "I wanted to." She picked up her jacket now and walked toward the door, where Lily was already hopping impatiently on one foot, the untied shoe flapping. "Come here." Clara knelt down and tied it with practiced ease, the way she had learned over 12 months of Saturday mornings and school drop-offs and the 10,000 small repetitions that made a person into a parent. Lily grabbed her hand. "Can we stop for ice cream on the way home? Your father burned the dumplings. We'll probably need it." They walked out together into the Atlanta evening, and Clara did not look back at the bronze handprints or the plaque or the glass doors. She had already built what she needed to build. It was not going anywhere. Neither was she. And the company Lily Han Bennett would one day inherit was worth considerably more than 8 figures now.